Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas G. Hedberg with International Medical Crisis Response Alliance, or IMCRA, which is a UN-affiliated medical education initiative. This module was developed by IMCRA for your use during the coronavirus pandemic and to provide you with accurate medical information from the latest epidemiologic and virologic research. This presentation and its contents are the property of IMCRA and are protected by international copyright law. So, it is now early August 2021, and across the United States, we have been watching as the daily infection rate has steadily increased from a post-vaccination low of 4,000 nationwide on June the 20th to a new high of 150,000 cases on August the 4th. Again, please note that this is the number of new cases reported each day. This spring, we stopped production of these instructional modules because, as at the same time last year, the end of the pandemic in the U.S. seemed reasonably assured. People were getting vaccinated by the millions, and most appeared to understand the need and importance of facial coverings and tactile precautions. Cases had dropped nationwide, and the outlook was positive. So what happened? Are the vaccines not working? Has something been added to the pandemic plot? Well, the explanation is a bit more complicated than it was in the past. First, let's take a look at the comparative effectiveness of the vaccines currently available. As shown here, nearly a year's worth of data has established the unqualified effectiveness of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines at approximately 95%. This figure is basically matched by the efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine following administration of a second dose. At present, the Johnson & Johnson data show a U.S. effectiveness rate of 70%, which is a bit less than we would hope for. Now, in terms of foreign developed vaccines, the Russian Gamvac Sputnik V has an apparently verifiable report of 92% efficiency. Alarmingly, though, the same cannot be said of China's Sinovac inoculation, which has been disseminated throughout East Asia and is currently tracking an efficacy record of between 48% and 50%. But more about that later. In the USA, thanks to President Biden's aggressive policies, nearly half the country is now fully vaccinated. On the other hand, approximately 50% of the country is not fully vaccinated, and this poses a serious problem. In light of the rise of the Delta variant and the reduced effectiveness of Sinovac and partial vaccinations, there are still quite a few things you need to know. One of the first and most important is understanding that even fully vaccinated people can still transmit the virus. This is one of the most serious issues to grasp. Vaccinated people can contract and harbor the virus, but while any illness they experience is likely to be mild, they can still be highly effective agents of viral transmission. And transmission can take the form of close personal contacts, handshaking, and many of the other familiar behaviors that vaccinated people have erroneously assumed can be resumed as in the pre-COVID-19 world. Moving to point number 2, weariness with COVID-related restrictions, as well as feelings of immunity and the too quick reopening of many group venues, has led to the disappearance of necessary cautionary measures, and in fact, the resumption of deadly superspreader events. As per point number 3, while the vaccinated are at greatly reduced risk, the unvaccinated, including children under the age of 12, remain threatened. The Biden administration recently announced that nearly all COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths reported during the month of July 2021 were of unvaccinated people. With the rise of the more easily transmitted and potentially more deadly Delta and Lambda variants, the danger is increased substantially. Finally, there is the issue of travel by incompletely vaccinated or Sinovac inoculated people. Both groups have a notably higher risk of both contracting active disease and transmitting infectious virions to others. Since 2016, and well before the pandemic, the U.S. Republican Party, its affiliates and constituents, have identified themselves by the fervor of their dedication to the proclamations and policies of this person. Unfortunately, his deadly influence remains very much alive in the face of sustained agitation against mask wearing, vaccination, and most forms of good sense crowd control by many Republicans and their constituents. We at IMCRA continue to be amazed by this epidemic of destructive ignorance and can only hope that educational efforts of this nature will turn the future tide. In terms of non-political issues, although honestly it's difficult to separate the two given the current political control of social media and multiple news outlets, there is some persistent concern over long-term side effects of the various vaccines. So let's put that to rest, along with most of the mythology. Apart from some brief acute local effects, for example, redness, soreness, or swelling, and some mild short-term systemic effects, e.g. fatigue, muscle pain, chills, and headache, responses to vaccination are remarkably mild and transient. It is critically important to note that compared to the symptoms of COVID itself, and here I'd urge you to see Module 6 in this series, Interview with a COVID-19 Victim, these side effects are absolutely trivial. While it is true that in less than 17% of all cases, there has been occasional transient evidence of fever, diarrhea, joint pain, and nausea, these effects are again transient, and in virtually all cases are completely gone within a few days of inoculation. If you want a good comparison of risk-benefit, think of someone twist-burning your arm in order to pull you out of the path of an oncoming truck. Okay. Regarding other concerns about the long-term effects of inoculation, millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of subjects have been involved in conducting the FDA-required clinical trials, proving these vaccines. A safer medication has rarely been available to Americans. Rumors and internet postings of things such as changes in your DNA, the vaccine giving you COVID, egg proteins, or infertility, these are dangerous fairy tales which are utterly without foundation and do not belong in an enlightened society. One factor which doesn't get much play but which has been proven in a number of studies is that the older the recipient of the inoculation, the less likely he or she is to experience any of the noted side effects. So where do we stand today? 93 million Americans still remain unvaccinated, and many remain only partially vaccinated. New and necessary restrictions are in the offing, due primarily to the huge body of the unvaccinated. The Delta variant is surging in the southern states and will soon spread nationwide. Perhaps most worrisome is the following. It is a known truth in virology that the more people infected with a given type of virus, the greater the chance that virus has to mutate into variant forms. The undeniably greatest danger being that one of those forms will be a particularly virulent strain for which we have no vaccination. The threat of that cannot be minimized. The U.S. is currently reporting a 7-day average of nearly 94,000 new cases as of August 4th, 2021. This is up 48% from only 1 week ago, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. Although the recent COVID surge has most severely affected unvaccinated individuals, millions, still trusting in politicians rather than scientists and doctors, have put their lives and the lives of loved ones and the nation as a whole into jeopardy. There is at present only one answer to this second year of the global pandemic: vaccination coupled with caution to avoid infection. As shown here, there is nothing to fear from vaccination and everything to gain. With most of the major U.S. vaccines, immunity is assured within 2 weeks of the second dose. Access is assured by most local and state governments. Side effects are mild or non-existent, and the protection is long-lasting. Just how long-lasting we still do not know, but there is every indication that even diminished resistance will offer good protection from serious disease for well over 6 months. And so that's it. We cannot afford to let the pandemic morph into something even more deadly to humans and perhaps ultimately to other species. We must put aside fringe politics, conspiracy theories, rumors, hysteria, and everything else that has hampered human progress since the dawn of history, and take a hard-nosed and scientific approach to one of the gravest dilemmas that has ever confronted humanity. Get vaccinated if you haven't already done so. Urge your friends and family, both at home and internationally, to do likewise. And until the danger is past, resume the extensive precautions you were urged to take when the pandemic began. 1. Don't get infected. 2. Wear a close-fitting face mask. 3. Use disposable or washable gloves when handling objects infected people may have touched. 4. Disinfect common surfaces. 5. Wash hands regularly and for at least 20 seconds with warm water and soap. 6. Maintain a 6 to 10 foot social distance with non-family at all times. It's not all that difficult, simply a matter of self-discipline. As one last note, I'd like to refer you back to some of our earlier modules, 1 through 6, on COVID avoidance, insights, and safety techniques, which can be found on this same IMCRA channel. This pandemic will ultimately end. Just be sure you're around to celebrate. For further information and updates, please visit us at www.imcra.net or Google us at imcra/globalgiving.org. Thanks for your attention, and once again, good health.